Hey everyone. Today I want to share a story about a lesson that I learned from my dog, of all things. Sometimes the lessons come from the weirdest places. And it's from an old blog that I had written back in 2012. I'll explain this in a second. But you would think that being a lifelong intuitive, I have always had all this information available at my disposal, all the wisdom of the heavens, telling you how to live your life and, what to do in every situation and how to handle myself and what kind of wisdom to impart to others. No, that has actually come with age. That has come from experiencing life, being here on this earth school, learning very hard lessons. Unfortunately, a lot of those lessons came because I wasn't being very nice. I was being very stubborn. Sometimes just being an out brat. I mean, there was a time, I believe it was back in 2005, that I had a major meltdown with my spirit guides and I fired them all. Said, I'm done with you. Get out of my life. I don't want you guys here anymore. You're fired. You hear me? Stay away. Yeah, there's a whole story with that because, of course, they laughed at me. But I mean, just because you're an intuitive doesn't mean it's all love and light all the time. In fact, with me, love and light comes in un poquito, skosh, not much, because I'm me. I'm a real person. I'm not pretending to be something that I'm not. But I have gained wisdom over the years. In fact, what's funny is that this blog that I had written with the dog, it came from an old blog site that I haven't even touched in years. I actually didn't remember the password. I had to do one of those, did you forget your password? And then had to, well, what was the last password you remembered? Dude, if I remember what the last password I used, I wouldn't have trouble trying to log in, right? But somehow I was able to gain access. And what's funny is I was looking at the things that I had written back in 2009 through 2012. And I realized how much wisdom I didn't have back then. I mean, I had some, but I was a lot younger too. That was what this particular blog was 11 years ago. So, I was just barely into my 40s at the time. But it was kind of like reading back, not this particular blog. That's why I chose this blog because it was a little more well written. But some of the other ones I had written, it was like reading something at a first grader's understanding. And now I'm at college level because of so many hard knocks in life. But yeah, it was very, very interesting. Like I said, as a lifelong intuitive, you just these are things that have to come with time and with age. Um, I'm I know many instances where my team, and when I mention team, I'm talking about my guides, my angels, loved ones on the other side, God, anyone who wants to bring information through, who wants to talk to me. I know for a fact that they have given me plenty of wisdom over the years. But when you're younger, you're like, yeah, 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 yeah. I know it already. Yeah, right. You think you know it all, but you don't. Or I was stubborn. Or I went, man, this is gonna be hard work and life is hard enough. I don't want to do more hard stuff. So you try to find the easy way around things, and then you realize, oh, you're taking now 5 times as long to get back to where you were if you had just done the hard work. But hey, I'm human, right? Now, what's funny is my grandmother, her name was Lucia, but we called her Lucy. Everybody called her Lucy. My grandma Lucy was very, very intuitive. In fact, I come from a long line of very intuitive Hispanic females. My mom, my grandma, my great grandma, it just goes back. But she used to get actual, I mean, just not all the symbolism. She would actually get messages coming through. She had visitations from her grandmother, visitations from what I would call Marian visitations. You know, the Blessed Mother would come to her. She experienced stigmata. I mean, she was very, very in tuned, and they would actually give her direct messages that said, hey, this and this and this and this and this will happen. And 99.9% of the time, they would come through exactly as she was told. Now, my guides are like, trying to get direct messages, and they're like, oh, let's play the guessing game. Let's give you all these symbolisms. And now you have to go out there and you have to, figure out it all out and figure out how all the pieces go together, like your most nightmarish Sudoku puzzle. Yeah, I'm not so lucky. But what I love though is when I do intuitive readings, the messages that come through for the people I'm reading for have actually taught me a lot. And that's what I'm saying. Things come from years of wisdom, years of experiencing. And that's why I always say that the readings are both for the client and for me, because I can't tell you how many times I've laid awake at night after doing readings for people and thought about the wisdom and the messages that came through for them and thinking, wow, that's really something. You know what? I can apply that to my life too. That kind of fits in my life. So while I'm helping others, it's actually helping myself too. So it's a win-win situation, and I just love it. But let's get on with this particular incident with my dog Ava. Now, unfortunately, my dog passed away in March of this year. She was 11 and a half years old, and she had suffered from Addison's disease. After the diagnosis came after her experiencing a severe Addison's crisis at the age of 4. I mean, she had just turned 4, and several days later, she went into crisis. It was very, very hard for the 7.5 years after that. Because of all the issues she had and all the medical drama and all the medications, expensive medications and all that. But I tell you what, that dog, man, she taught me so much. But the one thing that she taught me the most was about unconditional love. Oh, getting choked up. Yeah, it's still fresh. But we never forget our animals. In fact, I'm going to be doing sometime soon a meditation guided hypnosis to the Rainbow Bridge, because it's something that really helped me after she passed away. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. Hold on. We're going to pause for a second. So I'm back and no more tears, except for maybe the tears from being blinded by the sun. I've had to move my chair around and the little table my laptop's on around a few times because this sunroom is nothing but windows down low, up high, and 2 skylights. So the sun's been popping in and out behind clouds. And when it comes in, it's like, I feel like the Wicked Witch of the West. No, I'm melting. So the blog I want to talk about was written on February 2nd of 2012, Groundhog's Day. And the incident had happened the day prior. I called it a dog day in lessons because it's not a lesson that was for the dogs. It was a lesson brought about because of a dog, but it was for me. So, homemade teleprompter, remember? So our dog Ava at the time was 6 months old, and she was a good girl for the most part, except for this one stage because she was a very big girl. So she didn't know her own strength. She was half German Shepherd, half Rottweiler. And so she was big, barrel chested, and teething at the time. My husband called her a raptor from the Raptors of Jurassic Park because, man, she was just trying to like eat everything. She ate part of a wall, the leg of a dining room chair. She chewed up our sectional. I mean, it was a nightmare. But on this day, she was really, really wild. And at some point, I don't remember if I was actually playing with her or not, but all of a sudden she wrapped her jaws around my arm. Well, being a former canine police officer in the Air Force, I was used to that. So I just got her jaws off my arm, grabbed her by the collar, and put her outside. I think she was outside for only 5 minutes, and then I felt bad for her and I let her back in. She wasn't sorry anyway. In fact, she was just wagging her tail and walking around as if nothing had happened, right? You know how that goes. So I had gone to go get some ice for a big cup of water I had. And we had one of those French door refrigerators with the big uh, bottom drawer freezer. And that's where the ice maker was at. The ice would fall into this ice catcher that had a scoop with it. So I was getting a big scoop of ice cubes, and she came running over because she loved ice. And she was wagging her tail and panting that smile that only dogs can do. I looked at her and I was like, no, no ice for you. You were a naughty girl. So she whined and she scooted in closer and looked at me like, give me my ice cube now. And I just told her, no, you are not nice, so you don't get any. Well, as I'm standing there telling her this, a piece of ice pops out of my scoop and lands right at her feet, which she happily gobbles up real quick. So I thought I was just being clumsy until I went to go put the scoop back into the freezer. I didn't even touch the ice cubes that were in the ice catcher yet, when all of a sudden I watched as a piece of ice cube came up and out of the freezer and landed right back at her feet again, which again, she happily gobbled up and she smiled at me. And I stood up at that point. I was like, okay, what the hell? Because the first ice cube could have been me jostling the scoop or something. But that second one, I could not explain how that ice cube came out. It was weird. And then I thought, here I'm trying to teach her a lesson, and the darn dog is getting all the ice she wants. I could feel my team laughing at me. Remember the team are, the angels, the guides, God, loved ones on the other side, whoever wants to talk to me. And they were laughing. And I silently informed them in my head that I did not want to give her what I felt she did not deserve in the moment. They in turn informed me that it was not up to me whether or not Ava got the ice or not. Ava was without judgment of whether she deserved it or not. She expected to be given ice, so she got the ice. Oh, well, I thought about it for a while, and then I realized I still had a lot to learn. So often we look to others to provide the things that we want or feel that we need. And then we become disappointed when those people do not deliver or meet our expectations. If we would simply just surrender ourselves to Source, God, universe, or whatever you call your higher power, and then expect these things, well, the universe is going to deliver no matter what or who it's from. The trouble we get into is when we feel like it has to come from someone, or we think of something very specific, and then we doubt whether we're deserving of it or whether or not it'll actually happen. All that does is block the avenue that the desire is manifesting from. It works. Here's the keyword: when we believe we can have something. Here's the other keyword: expect it to happen, and then hold ourselves wide open to receiving in whichever way it wants to show up. I don't know how many times I or other people I have known have turned away a real gift or a miracle because it did not show up in the way we imagined it was supposed to show up or how it was supposed to come through. So we choose to ignore it. Then we look at other people who we have judged as undeserving and scratch our heads because they seem to get everything that they want. How is that possible? Why do some of us seem to do the right thing and yet we struggle and get nowhere? Meanwhile, so and so over there never struggles, but they make lots of mistakes. They're not so nice. And yet he or she never seems to lack. It's simple. The universe does not discriminate between who is deserving and who isn't. Why? Because the universe is without ego, and therefore it only gives us what we believe we can have. If we believe we're the type of person that just good things never happen to, then guess what? Good things are never going to happen to us, or rarely. If we expect things to always be there, then that is what will happen. So the next day when I was getting ice, Ava came running over again, waiting for her ice cube. And I just had to go, ugh. And I threw her an ice cube and she happily gobbled it up and then she was satisfied. I had resigned myself to the fact that it didn't matter whether the ice cube came from me or some other source. The girl was going to get what she wanted because that's how she rolled. Wouldn't that be awesome if that's how we all rolled? Again, the keywords: believe and expect. Now, some of you may say, well, I believe I can have good things come into my life. But if you have been telling your story or yourself a different story after all these years, guess what happens? The critical mind all day is going, I believe, I really believe. And the subconscious is going, put on the brakes. Hold on just 1 second. Wait a minute. All these years you've been telling a story about how good things never seem to happen to you and that everything seems to be a struggle and how, it takes a lot for something to happen for you. And now you're telling me you believe? Sorry, nope. That's something I can't get on board with. I have to protect your story that you've been saying for years and years and years. I've talked about the subconscious a lot. Remember, it only knows what it knows. It doesn't discriminate whether it's positive or negative. It just knows what it knows and then it protects that. So there is a way around that. Hypnosis is the fastest way. Yeah, I'm plugging hypnosis here because now we shoot past the critical and conscious mind straight into the subconscious where we can begin the work. However, there's a way to do it though without hypnosis. It takes a long time. And I have a story one day that I will share that it took me 9 months to do. And it came after I fired all my spirit guides. They laughed at me, but yeah, I fired them because I was in a true temper tantrum meltdown at that point. And I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. And I didn't care anymore. They just needed to leave me alone. But yeah, it took 9 months, but it can be done. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of saying, I believe, even when you're not believing. But the more you say it and the more you do it every day, day in and day out, guess what? The subconscious doesn't realize whether that's a true statement or not. All of a sudden, that's all it's hearing, all it's hearing, all it's hearing. And then pretty soon, it's going to take it on as its truth and known. So practice, 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 belief and expectation. So I hope you all have an awesome day. I love you. Bye.